Okay, so in the last video, I said that I would go over some tropes. I have a hard copy of this book. I found it on Google, The Trope Thesaurus, Trope Your Way to a Stronger Story by Jennifer Hilt. So in one of the books I was reading, it used the term trope a few times in reference to how judges tell stories in their opinions. Also, lawyers and attorneys, they tell stories to the juries and to the judge to get people to persuade people to see things their way. So tropes are just different relationships that are between people or different situations that a person's in to entice people to create a story, really. So let's look at what is a trope. A trope is a convention or device that establishes a predictable or stereotypical representation of a character, setting, or scenario in creative work. Okay, so let's just briefly look at different types of tropes, and these are the things that um, judges, lawyers, attorneys, used to persuade a jury or public opinion. Politicians can use tropes too. We've seen stuff like where Hillary Clinton claims her and her daughter were so poor they had to do laundry for other people. Or she goes on a predominantly Black listener radio show and claims to carry her Tabasco sauce in her purse, and um, just different stories that people tell to try to entice people or persuade people to vote for them or think more highly of them or accept their opinion. Okay, so another way we can think about tropes is by grouping them into three categories: persons, places, or objects. I love it when I can bring order to life's messiness. Okay, so role of trope, secret or change based. This is a pretty good book. I read it probably in a few hours. It's not that big. Um, and it talks a lot about tropes. And I want to just get to some examples. So here she says, when I write the conflict, I ask myself two questions. What's the opposite of the character's goal? How hard can I make this goal for the protagonist to attain? Now, again, I'd like to keep it in your mind the locution, elocution, and perlocution, a statement, what the person wants you to um, do or think or feel, or the intention behind their statement is the elocution, and then the perlocution is what they want you to do or feel. So the locution is the statement, the elocution is the intention, and the perlocution is the doing or feeling of the person hearing. So power trope, secret baby. Really? Yes, secret baby. Hear me out. Secret baby is just what it sounds like, a baby whose parentage or whose existence is kept secret. Sounds obvious enough, but let's take a closer look. My love of the secret baby trope comes out of the history of disdain for the trope in popular culture. Depending on your life experience, you may associate the secret baby with former daytime serial killers like General or serials like General Hospital, Guiding Light, and Days of Our Lives, or perhaps their primetime equivalents like Dynasty and Dallas. Secret Baby is not a has-been trope, though. Today, the secret baby trope is found on Netflix. Historical romance, Bridgerton, Amazon science fiction, The Expanse, Netflix fantasy, The Witcher, HBO's mystery series, Mayor of Easttown, and The Golden Compass. So what's so awesome about the secret baby trope for me? It's a twofer, two tropes in one. There's the secret part because as storytellers, we know characters that have things to hide are motivated. They want to keep their past actions private and they will go to great risk to protect exposure. That is true for any trope involving a secret because it's a conflict that is dying to be released like a genie in the bottle. And yes, you can check out the 1965 sitcom series I Dream of Jeannie if you have a hankering for an actual genie trope. The second part of Secret Baby is, of course, the baby. The unplanned offspring only increases complications for the characters. How? Because the power is in the reveal. The secret baby trope is not one that's dropped on the audience right away and immediately played out. Instead, the conflict builds as attempts to conceal the secret baby trope are employed to varying degrees by the characters. So again, this is the things that draw people's attention. It draws their interest. It brings them into the story. They become a part of it. And judges, lawyers, attorneys, they all know this. And that's just why they use tropes and storytelling in their writing, because it's very persuasive. It gets people to perlocution, it gets them to feel, it gets them to act, it brings them in on their side. Okay, so tropes, genres and tropes, she writes about, and then part two. Okay, so we run out of book here, but I have book. So let's see. 3 ways to use tropes in romance. Let's stick with Pride and Prejudice as we examine 3 ways to use tropes in storytelling. There are the ways I mentioned in the first chapter that I think about tropes. Degree of trope, primary tropes of the MC, heroine Elizabeth Bennet, enemies to lovers, love triangle, arranged marriage. Hero, Mr. Darcy, enemies of lovers, across the tracks, love triangle. Second trope for each MC, that's major character. Elizabeth Bennet, best friends, Charlotte Lucas marrying the pastor, military, Wickman and her sister, so on and so forth. And then P&P tropes, arranged marriage, across the tracks, best friend, billionaire, blackmail, enemies to lovers, forced proximity, guardian ward, hidden identity, the things that people love, the things that intrigue people and bring them into the story, the things that keep their attention. The loner, love triangle, matchmaker, military, on the road, orphan, playboy, protector, redemption, return to hometown, reunion, revenge, royalty, scars, second chance. Person tropes, hidden identity, enemies to lovers, friends to lovers, love triangle, royalty, guardian ward, loner, matchmaker, orphan, boss, playboy, protector, second chance, best friend, billionaire. People love to hear about these things. And then location changes. Each location change serves to create new conflicts for the characters. Object tropes, scars, revenge, arranged marriage, blackmail, unrequited love. And then building a romance trope. Okay, fish out of water trope, seed of doubt trope, escapism. Mystery is about the puzzle. Thriller is the push and pull between protagonist and villain. Suspense is about tension and what may happen. Knowing how to use cliffhangers is the difference between getting audiences hooked versus facing them drifting away. We all know we need to create engaging characters who face conflict. Okay, trope it up, who and where. Although a romance requires a minimum of 2 main characters, the mystery, suspense, and thriller story often uses a more extensive cast of characters. For me, the protagonist, antagonist, victims, and suspects are all tropes. They exist to push the story forward, and we can twist them however we want. Some of the best stories written in history have a lot of these elements in them. And so when the judges, attorneys, and that they find a story that's similar to the case and the situation they're dealing with, and then they work that story in or those tropes into their case, their pleadings, and their opinions, because they're already proven to be successful stories that people love. And they buy into them. So here she has John Wick tropes. MacGuffin, mistaken identity, politics, reunion, revenge, scars, violence, quest, forced proximity, on the road, return to hometown, workplace, best friend, billionaire, blood relatives, law enforcement, loner, boss, stalker, tortured hero, widower, secrets, and violence. Protagonist and antagonist having a history creates excellent conflict. So you have your person being accused of a crime and the person accusing them of the crime, or the person who did the bad thing and the person who was injured. So you have the protagonist and the antagonist. Primary tropes for John Wick: revenge, scar, and quest. Um, they have secondary trope for John Wick: return to hometown, best friend, and hidden identity. How is this helpful to your story? In this case, the main tropes reflect violence, which fits since this is a thriller. Notice how the secondary tropes reflect the secret or more emotional sides of John Wick's character, which helps create a complex character. And the secondary tropes add fuel to B storylines. Marcus, as John's friend, former rival, is a great subplot supporting the main story. Is he going to kill John or help him? The story keeps us guessing by following his thread. Trope types: a person trope. The loner and tortured hero trope fits John Wick perfectly. However, he is also a grieving widower and friend. His extreme violence is tempered by his tenderness shown to his wife and puppy. It creates a complex character. Place tropes. The Hotel Continental is a perfect forced proximity trope, and it serves as a return to hometown trope. Wick is known there by his name and familiar with the establishment's rules. Setting as a character is a fan favorite. Object trope. The object in John Wick is Viggo's son. He's a MacGuffin that Wick tracks across New York. MacGuffins, scars, and quest are perfect tropes for thrillers. They provide a template for the story scenes. Roles of tropes: John Wick's secret base, hidden identity and scar; John Wick's changed base, reunion, redemption, revenge. John Wick is packed with secrets and changed tropes. We see Wick telling himself and others that he's only going to avenge his lost hope on Viggo's son. We also see former colleagues as if he's back. Wick replies no, but as the story progresses, Wick reaches a point where he changes his answer. Lucky for us. But looking at John Wick through the lens, ways to use tropes, I hope you see many ways to use them and manipulate them. There's no limit on what you can do. Trope thoughts: what are your favorite suspense or thriller stories? What tropes does it use? How can you use suspense and thriller tropes in your story? Okay, so just sort of a little bit of information on tropes and what they are and how they're used in stories, and how judges, attorneys and lawyers use tropes in their pleadings and in their opinions, and their closing statements to juries to persuade them to take their side of things. They often use sort of outlines and tropes that are well known if they apply to their story, or they sort of try to work them in. And politicians use them to persuade people to like them or vote for them or whatever. And they're used in probably your daily life and drama, and you watch TV and read stories and stuff, and you see these kind of tropes and everything all the time. So it's common for them to be used in court writings. And that's what the guy who wrote Minding the Law, Amsterdam and Bruner, was saying in their book. And a section that I read, they were making the comment that tropes are used in courts.